And they don't deserve to be considered public enemy number one. And they don't deserve to be chastised because of the profession or the dedication to the life that they chose. And yet that's what this issue became. It became an assault on workers, their rights, and collective bargaining. Workers, public employee unions did not cause the fiscal crisis in America. They had nothing to do with the collapse on Wall Street, the Lehman Brothers collapse. They did nothing to contribute to the mortgage failures across this country. They did nothing to force the banks to somehow turn their backs on their customers. They're suffering like the rest of us, and they ought not be treated as the cause of the problems in the state of Wisconsin. And yet that's what this issue really became, once you separated the fiscal issues. We were in the heat of an agreement on the fiscal issue, so let's clarify once and for all. Was there any disagreement about the 165? No. There was no disagreement about the need for public employees to pay more for pension and health care costs. None. As a matter of fact, when we went to the land of Lincoln, the public employee unions publicly came out and said they were willing to pay more in pension. They were willing to pay more in health care. They simply wanted to sign the deal at the collective bargaining table. When Governor Walker announced that he wasn't assured that they would pay it, I offered him a legislative proposal that would have set a sunrise date for the required pension and health care benefits. It would have been April 1 for state employees, and it would have been somewhere between July and September. We had never agreed on a date, but sometime in the future for teachers' unions and other unions to be able to reach an agreement so that they made their contribution but could protect the other non-economic issues that are so important in the workplace. To a nurse at the university clinic and hospitals, by the way, that lost all their collective bargaining rights. To a nurse at the university hospital whose primary interest is not how much they make in a day, but how many lives they can save in a day. To that nurse, what matters to them is to have some protection in the workplace so they're not required to do mandatory overtime, to working to exhaustion to the point that they're not providing the quality of care to their patients. Now that's good for everybody. It's not an economic issue. It's a human issue. It's a human rights issue. It's a worker rights issue. This bill wipes that clean. To a teacher. My wife taught, many of you may know, my wife taught for 33 years and was one of the best darn teachers in the state of Wisconsin. She's back there, and you ought to say thank you to her. Thank her for putting up with me. But thank her for her dedication to teacher, as all of the other teachers we ought to thank as well. And we also ought to thank her for the abuse she had to put up in the past month, because she received an awful lot of telephone calls using language that most people in this room never use, from people who don't live in Wisconsin. But they were motivated by Fox Television to call my home in Poplar, Wisconsin, when they couldn't even find Wisconsin on a map. They felt somehow compelled to tell us how to do our business, and do it in terms that we would never teach our children. And I thank her for putting up with it and sometimes setting them straight. So we had a situation where 52 years of collective bargaining was about to go down the drain in 5 days. The public did not know what was in that bill. And we were left with one choice. Use the constitutional tool we have to prevent a quorum on this bill. And we decided as a group of 14 to leave the state we love, to protect the values, traditions, the principles of justice and equality in the state we love. And for anybody that thinks it's a stunt Try to remove yourself from your family for 23 days. Endure the kind of false criticism that was made, the threats, the tension, and watch Wisconsin from afar be divided when we should be united. Even those of you who have concerns about the issue, you must ask yourself, are we better off as a state if we continue to be the United States of a divided America, which the fabric of Wisconsin is being shred for no good reason at all? Because had we passed the fiscal bill and left collective bargaining in place, the state of Wisconsin's fiscal condition would have been improved, and Wisconsin would not have been divided. No one came to me during this last campaign and told me that we should be supporting legislation to kill the unions. No one. My opponent did not. Governor Walker never did. He campaigned on the increased pension and health care costs. And I'm on record saying I know that those are going to go up, I'm willing to pay them, and I know that public employees are willing to share in the sacrifice as well. A couple of things that you should know about our trip to the land of Lincoln. One is that we paid for our expenses by ourselves. There was this myth we were on a bus. I was in a car with my good friend from northeastern Wisconsin. He paid for his gas. I borrowed $50 from him. I owe him $50. And sure, I remember to send him the $50. I paid for everything by credit card or by cash. My wife came down on 2 different occasions and gave me some extra cash and some clean clothes. And we paid for every bill ourselves. I don't want any help from anyone else, because the money that my wife and I have made in taking this stand to protect rights of citizens is the best investment I'll ever make in my life. And during that trip, we had a chance to go to central Illinois because her family lives there. Clinton, Illinois, about right in the middle, not in that little southern Illinois, not far from Champaign, where, by the way, Indiana legislators still remain today. They left Indiana to try to block some anti-labor legislation as well. But there is, in Clinton, Illinois, one of the locations of the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates. And on a statue in the square where these debates took place is a quote from Lincoln that stand by the man that is right when he is right for as long as he is right, and depart from him when he is wrong. And we departed from Wisconsin because Wisconsin was losing its direction, was losing its sense of right. And we had no other alternative but to leave the state of Wisconsin in order to give the people of Wisconsin their voice back. As a result of our decision, hundreds of thousands of citizens have politely, respectfully, civilly gone to Madison or participated in rallies throughout northern Wisconsin, to try to express their opposition to the bill and to hope that the legislature will find some compromise. On the first day and every day thereafter, many of my colleagues and I were on telephone conversations with our Senate Republican colleagues. We knew that there were 6, maybe 7, 6 members of the Senate who hated the collective bargaining provisions in this bill. They told us so. They didn't want it. They felt an obligation to go along with it because the governor was so forceful, and they went along with him. I have no reason to tell you otherwise. I had those conversations.